Hi, I'm Steffany Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Legend has it that in a rural Navajo town called Many Farms, there was once a fruit tree orchard behind the lake. The town's less fortunate would steal from it late at night when the owner was asleep. When he finally caught on, the owner was so angry that he asked the devil to turn him into a tall, hairless, and incredibly fast monster to scare away the thieves. The orchard may be gone now, but all the town's elders claim that the monster is still there, waiting to attack anyone who comes near his property. Click, click, shh, they'd say. That's the sound he makes, like a horse clicking and dragging his feet. If you ask any of the townspeople about this legend, they'll tell you about a man named Coy. He was working for a construction company building a new gas station. If the work went into the night, he was paid overtime, so some nights he would stay as late as 3 a.m. But every morning, his grandmother, who he lived with, would beg him to come home earlier because she was afraid of the click-click shh. Coy would always laugh her off. Does it sound like this, Grandma? He'd tap his cheap, oversized boots twice on the ground and drag them, while chuckling at his poor grandma's reaction. You listen to me, young man. Something lives by that lake. I've heard it, she'd insist. But he'd pretend not to hear her as he ran off for work. One night, when he was working late, a pair of elders on his crew began trading their own stories. The first described in eerie detail a tall figure with jaundiced yellow eyes that crept through the trees along the lake, watching him. The other claimed he'd run for his life once after fishing at the lake at night. Coy found himself taking a pause in his drilling work to hear the stories. When his foreman walked up and told him to get back to work, "Sorry if we scared you," the first elder said. "Those old stories don't scare me," Coy replied. But seeing the fear in his eyes, the first elder gave a knowing nod. That night, driving home from work, Coy's truck suddenly shut down. The battery had died, which meant he would have to walk the rest of the way home. As he started the 5-mile trek, he noticed the beauty of the moon shining down on the lake and chuckled to himself about the elder's stories. And that's when he heard it. Click, click, shh. Coy stopped and turned around, but nothing was there. He walked on, and there it came again. Click, click, shh. Thinking it must be the elders from work messing with him, Coy stopped and said, "Very funny. You can come out now." Click, click, shh. Coy turned again to see a figure in the tree line. It was tall and shaped like a human. Growing angry, Coy slung a rock at it when, suddenly, it charged at him. Terrified, Coy ran for his life. The click-click followed his exact footsteps. He ran faster and faster, but the monster was catching up. As the end of the lake came into view, he was certain he'd be safe if he could just get to the other side. But then, Coy's oversized boots came loose, and he tripped and fell over. He heard the click-click shh as he turned to see its piercing yellow eyes and 6-inch claws glistening in the moonlight. He was tall, at least 7 feet, and his pale, hairless skin was covered in scars and goosebumps. His mouth looked like a shark's, several rows of teeth protruding. Coy looked up at the monster and whispered, "I'm sorry, Grandmother." No one saw Coy ever again, or so they say. So pay a visit to Many Farms. You just might hear the click-click shh in the night. But if you do, don't bother running. You won't be fast enough.
The holidays were always a big deal in the Escobar household because it was a time for festive feasts. Giselle and her younger brother Paulo gorged themselves on all the food their grandmother made, despite the story she told about La Pisadera. who would visit them if they fell asleep with their bellies too full. Their grandmother claimed the hag punished gluttons by crawling on their chests at night and feeding off their fear, all while they helplessly watched half awake. Giselle knew their grandmother only told them stories like that to scare them, but as she watched, her skinny younger brother scarfed down a third helping. She couldn't figure out how he could eat so much and still look so frail. "You okay?" Giselle asked. Paolo shrugged. "I'm just tired and very hungry. I had nightmares again last night." That night, in their room, Paolo fell asleep in his bed almost as soon as the lights went out, but Giselle couldn't sleep. She was worried about her too skinny brother and his too big appetite. As she stared at the ceiling, she suddenly heard someone moving through the house. It sounded too slow and deliberate to be one of her relatives. With a slow creak, she heard their bedroom door open. The hairs on her neck stood up, and she felt something coming closer. From the corner of her eye, she saw clawed fingers reaching out. A voice laughed softly, and then someone quickly jumped over Giselle. "Paolo!" Giselle gasped. When she saw the figure climb on top of her brother, it was a long, slender, haggard, demonic-looking woman with filthy claws. It bent in contortions to perch on Paolo's chest. "Paolo, move!" Giselle shouted. And with that, the demon turned to her with a jagged smile. It was La Pisadera. Giselle jumped out of bed and pulled on her brother, but La Pisadera pushed her to the floor. The girl landed on her back, and the hag was on her in an instant. Giselle's body became numb. All she could do was watch in paralyzed horror as claws dug into her chest. La Pisadera moved its wretched face close to Giselle's. As Giselle's terror grew, the creature's milky yellow eyes glowed brighter. Eventually, La Pisadera left their room, and the two siblings slowly fell back into an unrestful sleep. The next morning, Giselle asked Paolo if he remembered what happened that night. He shook his head while he kept on eating more and more cereal. Giselle was exhausted and very hungry too, as she poured herself another bowl of cereal. "Something is wrong," their grandmother said as she brought them juice. Giselle looked at her brother and they both began to cry. "We ate too much last night," Giselle explained. "La Pisadera came, just like you said." Their grandmother snatched their food away and sent them to their room. "No more for you today," she said. That night at dinner, Giselle and Paolo were surprised to see the neighbor's kid, Alejandro, at the dinner table. Their grandmother told him he would be staying the night with him. Giselle and Paolo watched as their grandmother filled Alejandro's plate and only gave them half portions. They were so hungry, and watching Alejandro feast was agony. The siblings both asked for more food, but their grandmother ignored them as she offered the neighbor his second dessert. That night, both Giselle and Paolo stared at the ceiling of their room, unable to sleep from being so hungry. Meanwhile, Alejandro slept on a cot, snoring happily. Eventually, they heard the laugh of La Pisadera as she crept into their room. The hag leapt onto Giselle's chest and once more tried to feast on the girl's fear. After a moment, it hissed its disappointment and jumped onto Paolo, but found no sustenance. It sniffed the air and smiled as its eyes landed on the snoring Alejandro. Soon, the neighbor was half awake and paralyzed as the demon hag fed. That morning, a very tired and hungry Alejandro left their home complaining of nightmares. As their grandmother prepared them a sensible breakfast, Giselle and Paolo had many questions for her. She explained that an all-encompassing evil like La Pisadera cannot truly be defeated, only passed on to someone else. Those that overindulged before sleep were in fact ringing the dinner bell for the evil entity. And now that they knew the truth of it, to always be wary of gorging themselves on food, especially if you are someone else's guest. U.S. Marine Lee Salazar had been deployed at sea for 11 months and 12 days. Being stuck out in the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by the endless dark water, made him miss his family. While patrolling the deck one night by himself, he thought he saw someone beneath the current. Thinking he was losing his mind and imagining things from repeated sleepless nights, he confided in his captain. Captain Harris went with Salazar to search and clear the deck. It was difficult to see anything beyond the black sky, but just as they were about to finish their search, he saw it again. "There, right there, tell me you see that," Salazar pleaded. And there it was. A bright light, clear as day, cutting through the murky waves of the ocean surface and into the night sky. The captain saw it too. They hurried to check the sonar, the sound navigating system that let them detect things deep beneath the surface. The captain was speechless. Salazar was amped. "Thank God I am not going crazy. I saw a person down there, Captain. I swear it. What is it?" "It looks like an active submarine," the captain said. "It's in distress. Captain, look!" Salazar pointed back out to the light and the water. The submarine light was blinking. 3 short flashes, 3 long flashes, 3 short flashes. That's Morse code. SOS. They needed help. Salazar was shocked when the captain looked at him. "Let's leave it alone," he said. Marine Salazar knew he had to do something. He grabbed his diving gear and let himself slide into the water over the side of the boat. Once underwater, he could see the distressed submarine. It was rocking back and forth. It seemed like the crew were running from side to side inside the sub. When Salazar finally got close enough to the ship, his heart dropped, and he couldn't believe his eyes. The back of the submarine was missing, allowing Salazar to enter with his scuba gear. As he swam through the vessel, he saw a shadow out of the corner of his eye. But as he approached it, nothing was there. Salazar drew his knife and navigated through the dark hull, prepared for whatever he might encounter. He saw something moving quickly towards him as he rounded the corner, and he stabbed to stop what he thought was a man coming toward him, but his knife got stuck in the interior wall. There was no one there. His pulse began to rise in anticipation. He needed to find the man sending out the distress signal. Salazar moved faster through the ship. Impossibly, he heard a toilet flush and made an about face and headed in that direction. He pushed open the door of the head. No one. Desperate to find someone, he made his way to the bridge. Salazar burst into the war room, expecting to find anyone, but it was also empty. But Salazar could feel the presence of the crew. As he swam around the room to look for any clues, he noticed the calendar on the wall. It read January 5th, 1944. That was 76 years ago, he thought. As the information sunk into Salazar's head, he felt something warm on the back of his neck, and it sent a chill down his spine. He turned around slowly to see the decayed skeleton of a man wearing the remnants of a uniform. The skeleton didn't say a word. It just stood there, breathing, heavy and heavier. Salazar blew past the skeleton and scrambled to get off the submarine. He swam back up to his ship as quickly as possible. Shaking, Salazar ran into the captain's quarters. There was no one there, Captain. Not a person, but a skeleton. And the captain interrupted him. A ghost of rotten bones. Damn it, Salazar. I told you not to go down there. Salazar told him the date on the calendar. The captain didn't seem surprised. Submarines and their crew don't ever go missing. That sub must have been from World War II. Those men are not lost. They just wanted to let us know, even though we haven't heard from them in a while, they are and always will be still on patrol. The reason I didn't want you to disturb them is because if you do, they'll follow you forever. As these words landed on Salazar, he could see the ghost of the man from the submarine appear behind the captain. Salazar pointed, but the captain turned his head, seeing nothing.
Thanks so much for listening. Like and share if this video gave you the chills. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. See you next time.